Discover the hidden talent of a maid. Her heartwarming song transforms a cowboy's life forever. Elena's voice floated through the inn like a soft breeze, carrying echoes of dreams long tucked away. The quaint little inn, cradled by the blistering Texas sun, was her sanctuary. Each note she sang whispered of hope. Her mother needed care, the bills piled up, yet music beckoned her like a distant star. She blended cleaning the rooms, folding linens, and tending to her ailing mother into a single rhythm, a dance of perseverance shadowed by doubt. Most saw her as just a maid, never recognizing the haunting beauty of her songs or the depth of her yearning. On one balmy afternoon, fate graced the inn with a rugged cowboy. Jake returned from serving his country, his spirit battered but not broken. He moved into a corner, nursing his own wounds while listening to the delicate sound of Elena's voice. When their eyes met across the empty dining area, an unspoken bond formed. Her soothing melodies spoke to his troubled heart, bridging the gap between sorrow and hope. They began to share stories of resilience, and each word exchanged felt like the gentle unraveling of their tightly wound fears. Elena found solace in Jake. For the first time, her heart dared to dream beyond the confines of her armor. Days turned into weeks, and as heat waves shimmered over the horizon, their connection grew. But whispers followed them like shadows. Rumors from fellow townsfolk questioned what a maid could offer a cowboy. Wasn't she just a poor girl cleaning rooms? The judgments hung heavy, threatening the fragile joy they found in each other. The turning point came when Elena spotted a flyer for the local festival, an opportunity that felt like destiny. She decided to audition, believing it might be her chance to break through. But as she stepped onto the stage, the cold, harsh criticism from the audience clung to her throat like shards of glass. Every scornful remark chipped away at her confidence until it shattered completely. She withdrew, retreating into the shadows of her once lively spirit, her connection with Jake fraying like an old rope. As summer faded into fall, Jake found himself lost, haunted by a past he couldn't shake and a future that felt increasingly detached. He turned to old habits, seeking solace in moments of forgetfulness. The distance between him and Elena loomed like a vast desert under an unforgiving sun. The festival approached, an annual celebration that seemed beyond their reach. Just as whispers about Elena's family heritage began to ripple through the community, dragging old prejudices to light, Jake felt a surge of anger. The weight of society's expectations pressed down on both of them, but he wouldn't abandon her. In a climactic moment amidst the crowd, he stood up against their narrow-minded glare and declared his support for her talent. "I won't let why all define her," he shouted, his voice strong and unwavering. The community watched in stunned silence as he took a step toward Elena, raw emotions swirling in the air between them. Their hearts, once burdened by judgment, began to heal, but as the festival loomed on the horizon, one question lingered painfully: would their love be enough to break through the chains of prejudice and allow Elena to step back into the spotlight she craved? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With the festival drawing closer, a renewed sense of hope flickered between them. Could they rewrite their story against the backdrop of the town's expectations? Only time would tell if love could pierce the barriers that had kept them apart for so long. Elena spent the days leading up to the festival wrapped in a whirlwind of emotions. Her heart felt as if it were caught in a storm, torn between fear and the flicker of hope ignited by Jake's declaration. Each morning, she practiced the songs that had once filled her spirit, the melodies echoing down the dusty hallway of the inn, but doubt lurked in the corners of her mind. What if the crowd rejected her again? Jake, meanwhile, poured his energy into supporting Elena. He spent hours crafting a sign for her, a simple piece of wood painted with bold strokes that read, "Come hear the beautiful voice of our own Elena." He placed it outside the inn, hoping to draw on the curious townsfolk. His heart raced with anticipation, knowing he had to stand by her, not just as her friend, but as a believer in her gift. As the sun dipped low, casting long shadows over the town, the festival set up in full swing. Colorful lanterns hung like stars across the main square, and the smell of fried dough wafted through the air, mingling with cheerful laughter. Yet, as Elena approached the festival grounds with Jake by her side, their hands brushed, and a wave of anxiety crashed over her. "What if it's the same as before?" she whispered, her voice barely cutting through the din of the crowd. Jake squeezed her hand, grounding her. "You're not alone this time. No matter what, you've got me." Their eyes locked, and in that moment, she felt a surge of warmth. She knew they would face this together, no matter the reactions they might receive. But as they arrived at the center of the festival, the whispers began anew. "Is that the maid? She'll never be good enough," one voice scoffed. Jake clenched his fists, his jaw tight as he scanned the crowd. "Just give them a chance to hear you sing," he urged her. "They don't know who you really are." Elena nodded, gathering her resolve. The festival announcer called for performers, and with every step toward the stage, she felt her heart race like a wild horse. She stepped into the bright lights, her breath catching as she faced the crowd. She hesitated for a moment, the collective gaze heavy upon her. But then she closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and began to sing. The notes poured from her like sunlight breaking through clouds, each word imbued with the longing and heartache she had carried for so long. At first, there were murmurs and fidgeting, but as she continued, the crowd grew still. People began to listen, truly listen. She poured her soul into every note, and the song became a bridge, connecting her to the audience and pulling them closer. But just as she reached the chorus, an unexpected loud clap of thunder echoed through the sky, followed by a downpour that chased the townsfolk for cover. Panic spread across the square, and Elena felt her heart sink. Would her moment be over before it truly began? Jake dashed through the rain like a comet, finding her at the edge of the stage. "We can't stop now," he yelled over the storm. "You can finish this." With trepidation, Elena wiped away the rain mixing with her tears. Could she still be heard over the storm? As she sang louder, the rain became a backdrop almost musical in its rhythm. People emerged from the sheltering trees, drawn back in. Would her voice rise above the chaos? Would it break through the barriers that had constrained her for far too long? Amidst the thunder and rain, the magic of that moment hung in the air, filled with uncertainty as they awaited the crowd's response. Would it be applause, or silence? The storm raged, but down in her heart, something shifted. She was no longer just the maid. She was Elena, a voice to be reckoned with, and as she sang, she began to feel the stirrings of change, reminding her of the power she held. What would happen next, not only for her but for Jake, too? Would they finally break free from the judgment of their town? Their future was suddenly more uncertain than ever, but in that uncertain moment, Elena's voice soared higher, pleading for a chance, begging for acceptance. Would the crowd embrace her? Or would they let the rain wash her dreams away? Elena poured her heart into every note, letting the melody swell and rise like the waves crashing against the shore. The rain fell harder, drenching her clothes and streaming down her face, yet she hardly noticed. With each line, she surrendered to the song, each word a declaration of her existence, her strength, her dreams. The crowd had huddled under makeshift shelters, eyes wide and mouths slightly agape. A mixture of lightning and Elena's voice illuminated their faces, a canvas painted with surprise and curiosity. She could almost hear their thoughts shift, the whispers fading, replaced by a collective inhale of wonder. "Do you hear that?" one man murmured to his neighbor, his expression changing from skepticism to awe. "It's beautiful," another woman breathed, clutching her friend's arm, her eyes glistening. Elena lost herself in the passion of her performance. For the first time, the fear inside her began to dissipate. The music was a wave washing over her doubts, and she swam deeper. She could feel Jake's presence just off to the side, a silent lighthouse in the storm, his supportive gaze holding her steady. She was not alone. Just as she hit the climax of her song, a moment of electrifying connection surged between her and the crowd. They were no longer spectators, they were participants in an experience that lifted Elena into the air, both literally and figuratively. She saw eyes glancing at each other, smiles breaking through the previous edginess of the storm. But then the rhythm of rain changed. It slowed, trickling down instead of pouring, creating a gentle chorus that harmonized with her voice. The thunder faded into the distance, as if the storm itself had paused to listen. And then, Elena heard it, the soft sound of clapping breaking through the drumming of raindrops on the ground. One hand met another, and then, like a ripple in the water, others joined in. Claps transformed into cheers, echoing through the festival square like magic. Jake's face lit up with delight, joy radiating from him as he cheered her on. Her heart soared, and for a moment, she felt invincible. She finished the song, her final note hanging in the air, trembling with emotion. The crowd erupted into applause, their voices lifting to the night sky. But then, amid the exhilaration, a chaotic shadow darted from the crowd. A tall figure pushed through, breaking into a forced smile that barely concealed the harsh lines of judgment. It was the mayor, and Elena's stomach twisted. "Time is up," he called out, his patronizing tone cutting through the celebration. "This is not a stage for foolishness in the midst of a storm." Elena's heart sank. Had they really heard her? Did it matter now? Their applause had meant something, hadn't it? Jake stepped forward, fists tight and ready, but Elena placed a gentle hand on his arm, grounding them both. She could feel the shift in her spirit, no longer the maid to be dismissed, she could stand up for herself now. "I'm not done," she spoke, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "This is more than just a performance. It's a part of who I am." The mayor's expression faltered, confusion flickering in his eyes. The crowd held its breath, caught between the power of Elena's words and the expectations of their leader. As tension hung in the air, she glanced at Jake, who nodded with encouragement. Would her courage intimidate the mayor? Or would it inspire the townsfolk? Would this moment right here, right now change everything? The rain began to drizzle one last time as the crowd hushed, waiting for the next move. Would she seize this moment, or would it slip away like a faded dream? Elena stood there, her heart pounding like the very rain that had finally tapered off. The murmurs of the crowd hung thick in the cool air, each breath a shared anticipation. She could see the faces before her, their expressions shifting from one of hesitant curiosity to an eager longing. What if she could turn this moment into something powerful? The mayor, visibly unsettled, shifted his weight uncomfortably. His bravado felt fragile, the veneer crackling beneath the undeniable energy of the crowd. There was something electric about the scene, like the storm had awakened a wild spirit within everyone. Behind her, Jake was anchoring her in place, his assurance pouring into her like warmth on a chilly day. "This isn't just about singing," she found herself saying, her voice unwavering. "It's about us, about what we can be together. We can rise above our fears, our doubts. Every note, every word, it's a reminder that we all matter." As she spoke, she felt a spark ignite in the air. People began nodding, the claps from moments earlier growing collective. There was movement in the crowd, a wave of recognition, as they grasped the meaning behind her resolve. She wasn't just a maid anymore. She was a voice, creating ripples that could shatter the silence imposed on them. The mayor squirmed, his expression tensing in disbelief. "You think this is appropriate?" he questioned, attempting to assert his authority, but something in the way the crowd leaned closer to Elena seemed to shake his confidence. "Yes," a voice shouted from the back, emboldened and deafening. It was a man who looked tired, a farmer who'd spent countless nights under the same sky, dreaming of change. "Let her speak." Elena's heart skipped as the crowd's energy surged. She could sense their unity, their need for something deeper, more real. And in her chest, a fire crackled and grew. "I'm speaking for those like us who've been silenced for too long." She took a step forward, defiance mirrored in the set of her jaw. "We deserve to be heard. We deserve to feel." The crowd echoed her sentiment in a chorus of yes and more. Her voice danced in harmony with their growing courage, echoes of hope ringing between them. "Enough of this." The mayor barked, irritation edging his voice. But his authority felt as flimsy as a raindrop, clinging onto a petal, ready to fall away. "This is not a place for your antics." Elena inhaled deeply, grounding herself. "What is happening here isn't an act, it's real life. Every struggle, every dream, we are a community, and it's time we embrace that." The crowd shifted, buzzes of agreement ricocheting through. A woman stepped forward, her face glistening with determination. "We stand with her. Not just a maid, but a storyteller. Elena felt the warmth of their support ripple through her. They were sharing a fierce solidarity, an unspoken promise of change. The moment felt monumental. She was no longer an outsider looking in, she was a part of something transformative. With a slight smile, she looked around, soaking in this newfound strength. But then, she caught sight of the mayor's face, rigid with disbelief, an odd flicker sparking in his eyes. What would he do now? Would he bend this moment to regain control, or would he surrender to an awakening far larger than himself? Before she could question further, a thunderous cheer erupted from the crowd. Hope surged through her veins. Would the change they craved be possible after all? But then, a sudden crack echoed above them, startling everyone. A branch fell nearby, thunder still rumbling in the distance, reminding them of the storm's presence. As urgency crept in, Elena realized that not all storms pass easily. What other surprises loomed in the shadows of this square? Would she have the strength to face them? Elena's heart raced, the cheers melding with her own quick breaths. Every person in the square seemed to share her pulse, a collective thrum of possibility that vibrated through the rain-damp cobblestones. But in the next moment, the atmosphere shifted, something ominous crackled in the air alongside the fading thunder. What was that? A woman beside Elena murmured, eyes darting to the towering trees surrounding the square. Fear flickered across the crowd's faces, replacing the momentary joy. The mayor, surprisingly, took a step back, his bravado collapsing as the sudden weight of the moment bore down on him. "We should disperse," he shouted, though even he didn't sound convinced. The authority he was so desperate to maintain felt washed away like the storm, swirling around them. "No!" Elena found her voice straining against the waves of panic. "We need to stand together. This is our moment." A few people from the crowd moved forward, stepping into the space she suddenly felt had darkened. "We want to hear you," called out the farmer again, his grit shining through. Their boldness ignited a flicker of hope within her. Could she really turn the tide back to the passion they had just felt? Elena thought of her dreams, her struggles, and the silent mornings spent longing for more. She envisioned the faces of those who believed in her. Strength surged within her, a force born of both fear and fierce determination, and she raised her hands. "Listen to my voice." With an instinctual leap, she opened her mouth and began to sing a soft melody that rose above the murmurs of concern. The notes, filled with emotion, threaded through the air, wrapping around each listener like a warm embrace. The initially tentative crowd responded, their collective heartbeats intertwining with her song. Some eyes glistened with tears, captivated by the softness intermingled with their own raw feelings. Each chorus she sang passed like a gust of wind, carrying the doubts and fears away. A woman, holding a child, wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, a smile breaking through her worry. A sudden gust of wind whipped through the square, making everyone shiver. The trees swayed like dancers, perhaps aware of the profound shift taking place below. But still, Elena poured everything she had into the song, her yearning, her pain, her unwavering hope. It became more than music, it was a call to rally, a beacon of strength against the gathering storm above. Then came a beautiful moment. The crowd began to hum along, clapping their hands to the rhythm, transformed by the unyielding energy they forged together. They were fighting against the fear, their voices rising harmoniously with hers, creating a tapestry of sound that pushed back against whatever darkness the storm had threatened to. In that moment, amidst the music and the communal heartbeat, Elena caught a glimpse of Jake. He was smiling, pride shining through those soft, warm eyes. They shared a knowing glance that anchored her, grounding her in this whirlwind of connection and courage. Suddenly, from a distance, a figure was approaching the mayor, now seeming smaller against the unyielding tide of the crowd. His face was pale, and doubt had settled heavily upon him. Would he join them? Would he acknowledge the power of their collective voice? But just as Elena began to wonder how this would unfold, an alarming crash drew attention from all around. The old clock tower in the corner shuddered ominously, the threat of collapse grumbling like the thunder. "Look out!" someone shouted as people instinctively moved closer together, an unbreakable chain. Would the strength of their unity be enough to face down not only the storm looming above but also the crumbling authority that had tried to silence them? What else was about to unfold? Elena's heart pounded as the crack was followed by a low rumble that echoed through the square. The storm was not just a backdrop, it felt alive, swirling with chaos and emotions. As she stood there, hands raised, surrounded by the warmth of the crowd, she couldn't help but feel a sense of sinking dread. The clock tower was swaying, and the sky darkened further, the threat of something ominous hanging over them all. Suddenly, in the midst of her song, the mayor stumbled backward, narrowly avoiding a group of startled children. His face had turned a ghostly white, his authority stripped away in the moment of uncertainty. Yet there was something deeper going on, a crack in his demeanor that no self-important leader should ever show. "Will you stand with us?" Elena's voice rose above the din, stronger now, demanding attention. For a fleeting moment, she locked eyes with Jake, who had pushed through the crowd to join her. His presence was a lifeline, reminding her of their shared dreams and struggles. She could feel her energy surging as more people moved closer, drawn by the urgency of their collective need for reconciliation and strength. The crowd began to chant, uniting as one voice in the face of their fear, echoing Elena's call for courage. "Together! Together!" They chanted, their rhythm aligning like the beating of hearts in sync with hers. Elation threaded through the air as courage fought against the building tension fueled by the storm. Then came another violent crack, this time sounding almost like a gunshot, and the clock tower swayed alarmingly. Fragments of stone rained down, causing screams to travel like wildfire. Panic rippled through the crowd. But instead of retreating, Elena felt an electrifying pull. Their unity could withstand this, and it was time for action. "Don't let fear tear us apart. We are stronger together," she shouted, urging the crowd to keep their stand. Iron will painted itself across her features, and she pressed on. "We can't let this moment slip away." Just then, a powerful wind surged, knocking the mayor off balance. He stumbled forward, arms flailing, and landed at Elena's feet. There was a pause, an almost surreal moment where time appeared to suspend. The crowd collectively held its breath, anticipation palpable in the air. "Stand with us, Mayor. Be a part of this," a voice from the back shouted, defiant and clear. The man was an elderly veteran, his weathered face a testament to struggles past. The plea hung in the air like an unanswered question, thick with possibility. Would the mayor support them or allow himself to be swept away by the storm? Elena crouched down beside the mayor, concern competing with the rallying fire inside her. "We're counting on you. Don't let them take your voice away. This city is ours." His eyes flickered with uncertainty, and she wondered if he realized how pivotal this moment was, not just for them, but for himself too. The trepidation of leadership had always buried his raw humanity, but she sensed a stirring beneath it. Would he find his voice, or would he shrink back, trapped in the whirlwind consuming him? The clock tower shuddered once more, and one more stone fell, bouncing off the cobblestones near Elena before exploding into dust. In that chaos, Elena could feel the chorus of support swell around her, the crowd leaning forward in anticipation. What would happen next? Would their strength convince the mayor, or would the storm tear them apart? As the dust settled, Elena realized it wasn't just their unity they needed, but his as well. Would he rise with them, or watch it all crumble? The answer hung heavy in the air as she took a breath, ready to face whatever came next. Elena held her breath, eyes locked on the mayor, who still lingered on the ground, the dust swirling around him like the storm above. The world around her felt electric. The crowd was a living, breathing force, hearts aligned, voices at the ready. Everyone felt the weight of the moment, and she prayed he would feel it too. "Your people need you," another voice shouted, this one young and fierce. A woman stepped forward, her hands clasped as if pleading for his attention, her expression resolute. The gathering craved leadership now, not just in words but in action. The mayor blinked repeatedly, as if waking from a deep slumber. Slowly, he pushed himself up from the ground, brushing debris off his tailored jacket like it could somehow wash away the doubts inside him. Elena could see the tension in his jaw, the gnawing fear in his eyes. Would he rise to the occasion, or would he surrender? "Together!" The chant came again, louder this time, emerging from deep within the crowd like a mighty wave. The fervor was contagious, washing over everyone, filling them with hope. They could face the tempest outside, but only if they had their leader standing with them. "Together is right," the mayor finally stammered, his voice shaky but gaining strength. He wiped his forehead, glancing at the clock tower that towered above them, now a precarious monument of their struggles. Together, we have always stood and we will stand now. In that moment, something shifted. The crowd surged forward, fueled by a hope that had seemed just out of reach. Elena's heart soared. She felt every heartbeat echo her own, unity sparking like fireflies in the dark. The mayor cleared his throat, his voice gaining strength with every word. This city has always been our home. It's time we reclaim it from fear. The wind howled in response, a reminder of the storm ravaging outside, but it only fueled their resolve. He stood up, steadied by a newfound sense of purpose. It was as if the weight of his office had lifted, replaced by the raw energy of the community. Elena stepped back to allow him space. She watched as he raised his hands, not just to quiet the crowd but to embrace them, igniting the flame of solidarity. What we face today is not just a storm in the sky. He bellowed, heartened by the growing surge. It is a reflection of the storms within us. We will not be torn apart. Tears glistened in the eyes of many, gratitude etched on their faces. The elderly veteran who had first called for the mayor's support smiled with cracked lips. This was the power of a leader connecting with the pulse of his people. As the rain began to pour, the storm shifted, no longer an enemy but a force for cleansing. The crowd, emboldened, lifted their voices in a powerful chorus, blending their songs with the storm's rhythm. Goosebumps crept over Elena's arms as they harmonized, messages of hope and resilience rising higher than the torrential downpour. Jake squeezed her hand, a silent promise shared between them. Together, their dreams would dance in the rain, blossoming amid the chaos. This is what we've been waiting for, he whispered, awe painting his face, but there was still a challenge ahead. The storm might have subsided momentarily, but darkness still loomed. Would Elena and her community find a way to rebuild, or would they succumb to the inner storms threatening to tear them apart once more? The crowd's melody rose higher, but within it, Elena couldn't shake off the feeling that this was only the beginning. What lay ahead? Would their newfound unity survive the tests that were bound to come? As she looked into the gathering storm cloud overhead, she knew the answers would soon reveal themselves. Elena could feel the warmth of the crowd pressing in, their voices lifting, enveloping her in a bubble of hope. She wished the moment could stretch on forever, but she knew better. Dinner was over, and life had a way of crashing down hard when the echoes of hope faded. As the rain fell heavier, some in the crowd began to shuffle, their eyes darting anxiously between the mayor and the darkened horizon. Elena could sense that what had just sparked inside them was fragile, like a flickering candle in the wind. Some began to murmur about the damage the storm had done, the homes torn apart, the streets flooding. The world was changing fast, and their collective courage felt like a tightrope walk. Stay strong, she whispered to Jake, her heart racing as she glanced around. He looked at her, his eyes soft yet serious. She knew they had to face whatever came next. Together, the mayor finished speaking. And it's not just my responsibility. It's ours. He declared, channeling something deep within, the electricity surging through his veins. Each of us has a part to play, every hand can help in this time of need. The crowd clapped and cheered, but Elena could hear the undercurrents of uncertainty within the applause, a fear that lurked behind the excitement. What if we can't rebuild? Someone whispered nearby, their face shadowed by the relentless rain. They were all thinking it. The storm had wreaked havoc not just on the city, but on their spirits. Could they truly band together to face what lay ahead? Elena took a deep breath, steeling herself to rise once more. We've faced storms before, she shouted, her voice shaking with adrenaline. This is our home. Every person here carries a story. We are strong enough to face this. Jake's grip on her hand tightened, reflecting not just confidence but also subtle panic. He was thinking the same thing she was. The storm outside was one thing, but the internal conflicts would be the real test. She could see it in the way other faces turned towards her, eyes wide and searching. The mayor smiled at Elena, and for a fleeting moment, she saw the weight of responsibility hovering over him like a halo. Elena's right. Together, we can weather any storm. But we need to take action now. Who among us can help lead our community efforts? Elena felt her heartbeat quicken. Could this be her moment? Her heart wrestled with feelings of trepidation. She had never seen herself as a leader, but she raised her hand, needing to seize the moment despite the apprehension tangled inside her. A figure emerged from the crowd. It was the young woman who had first called for the mayor's attention. "I have supplies at my home. I can help organize a shelter. We can start getting people to safety." Her voice rang clear and strong, and the crowd rallied behind her. Others followed one by one. They stepped forward, offering skills, resources, ideas. It was then that Elena realized the strength of their community was not in the accolades of one person, but in the collective resilience of many. She could hear it in their voices, the connection forming, each contribution weaving a stronger tapestry of hope. Yet, as the adrenaline surged in plans formulated beneath the stormy sky, another thought gnawed at Elena. What if their hope crumbled in the face of real adversity? What if the darkness they felt deep within turned out to be more formidable than the storm? The night was just beginning, and through the torrent, Elena wondered if her voice would truly matter. Would she find the courage to stand, not just for herself, but for all those counting on her? As the rain poured down, mingling with their tears of determination, she looked into the stormy night, knowing that whatever happened next would either solidify their unity or reveal cracks in their resolve. What would tomorrow bring? She clenched her jaw and steeled herself, the answers just beyond the horizon, waiting to crash in. The moment Elena raised her hand, she felt an unexpected surge of energy course through her. The murmuring crowd began to still, the tension transformed into cautious anticipation. Every eye seemed to lock onto her, a silent expectation hanging in the air. "Okay, we can organize a shelter at the community center," she heard herself say, her voice ringing louder than she anticipated. "Let us get the word out. We can hold supplies and food there. Anyone who can help get people here should step forward." With each word, the flickering candle of hope in her chest burned a little brighter. The rain drummed against the roof above them and soaked their hair and clothes, but the weather outside seemed to fade as the warmth of determination ignited around her. Jake stepped closer, his expression shifting from worry to resolve. "I can help get folks set up. We should check for anyone who needs a ride." His conviction seeped reassurance into her veins. As more volunteers made their way to the front, sharing their skills and resources, Elena began to feel an electrifying sense of purpose. One gentleman, his face familiar from community meetings, stepped up, his brow furrowed from stress but his resolve steady. "I can cook. Let us get hot meals going. No one can fight on an empty stomach," he called out, throwing a few expectant glances toward others who seemed to hesitate. Another woman, weary yet fierce, shouted, "I have a van. I can pick up families from the hardest hit areas." The energy in the crowd surged. Hands shot up, each voice becoming a thread intertwining with hers. Ideas blossomed like flowers breaking through concrete. They talked about food drives, rescue teams, and creating a network to check on vulnerable neighborhoods. Somehow, they were transforming chaos into a beautiful, hopeful chaos. But as the crowd buzzed to life, a pit settled in Elena's stomach. What if, amidst this charged moment, they learned some terrible news? What if they couldn't save everyone? The fear of failure gnawed at her resolve. With a shaky breath, she tried to push it away, focusing instead on the strengths of the community. "We're doing this together," she shouted, directing her voice through the thick tension. "We are going to get through this as a family." As if on cue, a loud crash echoed from the nearby street. The murmur of the crowd grew into a clamor of concern. Elena's heart sank as she turned toward the sound. What had been a storm turned into ferocity. She could see trees bending dangerously low, and the winds howled like a freight train. Fear rippled through the crowd, and panic began to seep in. Whispers of doubt shadowed faces that had moments ago been filled with hope. A child screamed as branches snapped before their eyes, and suddenly, they were no longer a united front but a group of individuals wrestling with their own vulnerabilities. Elena gripped Jake's hand tighter, feeling his pulse quicken at her side. "We can't let this stop us," she shouted above the din, her voice carving through the chaos. "It's just a storm. Let us find a way to get to the center." The crowd hesitated, eyes flitting between her and the violent sky. It felt like the moment hung suspended in time, the weight of their collective hopes threatened by the oncoming fury. Would they break apart, or find a way to move forward, even if it meant taking that leap into the unknown? As Elena's gaze scanned the crowd, she picked out familiar faces and unfamiliar ones, each marked by fear but also a flicker of determination. She knew they were threads, each integral to the fabric of their community. The winds howled louder, and the rain danced wildly at their feet, but she felt a spark ignite within her and knowledge that breaking down barriers, even now, was their pathway through. Let us be brave together. Elena called again, her heart racing. Let us show this storm what we're made of. As shouts of agreement rang back, she realized this could be a defining moment not for just her, but for everyone. But the storm and the chaos within was just beginning. How would they rally in the face of real danger? Would unity among them be forged in this tumultuous night, or would they falter? With her heart pounding, she knew the horizon loomed dark and uncertain ahead. The answers lay still out of reach, hidden amidst the blustering winds. Elena stood firm as the wind howled fiercely around them. She could feel Jake's strong grip on her hand, grounding her in a moment heavy with uncertainty. The community's faces blurred into a sea of apprehension, and for a split second, doubt swirled in her heart like the storm raging above. Yet amid the chaos, determination ignited within her. Remember how we faced the storm together earlier, she called out, raising her voice against the gusts of wind. This is our chance to band together once more, not just for ourselves, but for everyone who needs us. Her words hung in the air, pulling at the attention of those around her. Slowly, individuals began to nod. She could see some lifting their heads, courage flickering in their expressions like small flames in the darkness. With newfound resolve, the crowd began to shift, people stepping closer together, forming a tighter circle of support. We need to get to the community center, Jake shouted, stepping up beside Elena. It's south the safest place we've got. His urgency seemed to ripple through the crowd, sparking a flicker of hope in everybody's eyes. Let us do this. A voice rang from the back, echoing the collective energy that began to rise. More rallied around, their hesitations dissipating. One by one, they started moving, elbowing their way through the chaos together, their solidarity magnifying as it multiplied. Elena took a deep breath, heart racing as she led the way. The rain poured down, but the group pressed on, fists clenched, spirits elevated. In the face of fear, it seemed they had found a unifying thread woven from resilience. The urgency of their mission felt palpable. One woman from the back called out, "We've got to check on the elderly in our building. They're most at risk." Others chimed in, their voices lifting above the storm, creating a mix of determination and rallying cries. "I'll check on the kids in the park. I can drive people to safety." With each enthusiastic shout, more people found their roles. Hope surged like electricity coursing through the damp air. They weren't just a crowd now, they were a community forged in the fires of adversity, igniting with each step forward. Just then, a loud crash echoed nearby, and debris fell from a tree, prompting gasps and screams. But the crowd was ready without faltering. They enveloped the startled bystanders in a protective shield as they moved together toward the community center. "Keep going," Elena yelled, urgency intertwining with strength. "We can't stop. Think of the lives we're leading to safety." Every voice lifted silently to challenge the storm, and within that moment, a triumphant recognition began to unfurl among them. This was no longer about individuals but a powerful collective. As they approached the community center, the winds howled ferociously but felt less imposing now. The energy of hope propelled them forward, their hearts racing with purpose. Elena spotted the doors ahead, splintered by rain but still standing. They surged toward it, and as she reached the threshold, she felt a swell of warmth wash over her, mixed with adrenaline. "Together!" Jake echoed beside her, and others behind took up the chant, a rhythmic beat swelling as they stepped inside the safe haven. The space felt welcoming, a refuge from the storm outside and a reminder of what they were fighting for inside. Faces transformed, people were greeted not just with relief but with action. The community buzzed, ready to work together to ensure everyone was accounted for. Throughout the chaos, Elena stood back for just a moment, absorbing the power of this transformation. She could see the connections forming, how people leaned on each other, some crying tears of relief, others lifting each other's burdens, and in that crowded room, she saw Jake rise among them, his broad shoulders squared, a pillar of strength. "Let us get organized. We have food, warmth, and a place to gather. We'll hold this space until the storm passes. His voice carried conviction, and everyone responded, galvanizing around him, amidst the frenzy of tasks assigned in hands raised, the connection among them grew deeper. And as they shared tasks organizing supplies, ensuring everyone was safe, Elena felt a shift within herself. She was no longer just the maid, she was a crucial thread in the fabric of this community. She had embraced her voice, her purpose. Hours passed, and the storm rumbled outside, but inside, they found hope in one another. Laughter and conversations filled the room. Each person discovered their role and grew a sense of identity beyond the labels society had placed on them. Amidst the laughter, Jake found Elena. A smile spread across his face, triumphant, proud. They embraced amidst the hum of warmth surrounding them. "You did amazing, Elena. You led them," he whispered, his voice soft yet firm. "This is just the beginning." Her heart swelled as she gazed around at the melting pot of stories collected together in that space. "We did this together," she replied, sadness and joy dancing in her voice. The storm might have raged outside, but their spirits soared inside. They understood now more than ever, no storm could break them, not when they had each other. As the thunder continued to rumble, Elena glanced out a small window and saw a faint shimmer of light breaking through the dark clouds above. A reminder that dawn would soon come, a new beginning unfurling on the horizon of their lives. United by resilience and love, they were forging a new path, hand in hand. And Elena knew that together, they would face whatever lay ahead. Their newfound strength could move mountains. She gripped Jake's hand tighter, feeling every heartbeat echo with resilience. And in that simple gesture, she understood this was only the beginning of a beautiful new chapter, unladylike and wild, filled with a promise that continued to rise. And with hope lighting the way forward, she smiled, knowing no storm could ever extinguish the fire she had found within. Now is the time for you to be part of this transformation. You need to subscribe now to witness even more inspiring stories that will lift you up. This is the moment to show your support. Let's keep this energy rolling in the comments below. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others find their way to these heartwarming journeys. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to feel this transformation. Your support matters.